Ever since first primates climbed down from trees of old Earth, humanity always looked up to the stars and wondered, are there others like us out there? For millennia of our existence, the answer to this question eluded us, and it was not until post-exile humanity reached this small galaxy before we found our answers. Still, even then the stars mocked our curiosity, for although we found proof of other intelligent life in form of Istanbul Gateway and various ruins dotting our home system of Asha, we were still no closer to finding actual intelligent life. Today, we know the answer to our question. The stars are teeming with life, some friendly, some hostile, some more advanced than ourselves, some less. But, despite this variety, humanity is still thankful for the lucky set of circumstances that, in the first place, led us to discovery of first extraterrestrial civilization, the Alir Commune, a nation that proves that one's culture and history is never far away from one's biology. For the Alir are, according to their own scientific community, an evolutionary improbability on an unprecedented scale, and the fact that they made it into the stars is a proof of their extreme luck as a species. For when the first proto-Alir appeared on the surface of their cold, humid world of Sint, the planet was dominated by several species of extremely aggressive predators, similar to old Earth dinosaurs, that completely dominated the food chain. The Alir, on the other hand, were docile, peaceful herbivores, a set of qualities that should see them eradicated within few centuries. But, as it happened, evolution prepared Alir well and equipped them with a set of defenses that, to this day, remain a serious threat to all who wish Alir people harm. Standing at around 1.7 meters tall, they seemed minuscule when compared to their natural predators, but, as many of said predators learned, a cornered Alir turned out to be far more aggressive and capable of defending themselves than their docile nature would suggest. Their first and most notable defensive feature are of course their scythe-like claws, which, when backed by strength of a cornered Alir, can pierce through a centimeter-thick steel plate. And so, many predators learned, painfully, that trying to hunt one of these arthropods ends only with some serious wounds or outright death. If, however, one of the hunters managed to avoid the claws, they would soon realize that Alir's skin is yet another defensive measure. Hard but flexible, it forms a carapace-like armor over their bodies, with the thickest part being the headplate. This plate is so strong that Alir can take handgun projectiles on it without suffering any damage, not to mention that they can also use it to simply ram all those who mean them harm. And then, even if one of the predators survived their rending claws and natural armor, the Alir still had one surprise in store: blood so toxic that merely smelling it can cause most living beings to fall unconscious. So, armed with such powerful array of defenses, the Proto-Alir were poised to become masters of their world. Not because of their aggressiveness, but simply because of looking and acting like an easy prey, while being more than capable to fend off any predator. And yet, it was not enough to bring them to sentience. For all their defensive measures, Alir biology had some quirks. Most notably, their herbivorous nature, paired with their extremely fast metabolism, meant that Proto-Alir were never able to sustain a large population, as there simply weren't enough plants around to feed them. In fact, every time their race grew in number, it always suffered from a violent recess, as there was not enough food to feed all the primitive tribes. It also caused another side effect. The Alir realized, instinctively, that leaving their traditional grazing grounds would be risky, as there was no telling if there would be enough food in other areas. As such, they evolved as mostly sedentary species, which today is manifested by their poor adaptability to conditions other than the ones they were raised in. Most of this changed, however, when around 15,000 years ago, one of brightest Alirs realized that they were not forced to rely on fickle nature to supply them with food. Instead, that revolutionary mind reasoned it should be possible to plant seeds in the ground by ourselves and control the food supply, and thus the Alir civilization was born. What followed then was a pattern that repeats itself all across the stars. Introduction of agriculture turned roving Alir tribes into stationary towns and cities. Better organization and new farming techniques enabled population to grow way beyond earlier limits and eventually spread to all corners of the globe. The main difference, however, was the fact that most Alir remained true to their docile, peaceful nature, which resulted in almost complete lack of armed conflict across their history. Still, even various inventions followed a similar pattern as they have, for example, on Earth, albeit often for much different reasons. For example, back on Earth, humans developed ironworking mostly as means of creating weapons that would be far more efficient than ones made of bronze, while the Alir focused on creating better farming tools. Gunpowder, used by humans as a weapon for hundreds of years, was developed by the Alir as a deterrent against wildlife encroaching on their farmlands. Even things like rocket and jet engines were developed with agriculture in mind, for it is the most important thing to entire Alir society. Farming is something that every Alir is expected to do, and no wonder, considering that it is the only way they can feed their growing population. In fact, significance of agriculture is so prominent in Alir society that almost entirety of their culture revolves around it. National celebrations are often in line with various fertility festivals of old, and nearly every other aspect of Alir life, be it art, science or development, is in one way or another linked to their now continent-spanning farmlands. As for the individual Alir of today, they still hold on to their peaceful nature. Easygoing, relaxed and friendly by default, citizens of the Commune are one of the most liked and respected races across the stars, although their single-mindedness and unwavering focus on agricultural exploits means that they are often considered to be uninteresting conversation partners. They also have one particular quirk that some races, like humans, often find endearing: their love of alcohol. Most Alir societies create a beverage called rana, a type of wine made out of their local variety of rice. Rana is one of their most favorite drinks, but as an alcohol it has one important quality: it is extremely weak, barely containing any alcohol. Still, it doesn't stop Alir travelers and migrants from searching drinks made by other species, which, when paired with their natural lack of immunity, can often lead to situations that should best remain unmentioned. Regardless, that particular vice, combined with their relaxed nature, gained Alir reputation of being space hippies, a term coined by Commonwealth's ambassadors that entered common language around 2 decades ago. Still, despite, and because of all that, Alir peacefulness, likable character and overall reliability made them one of the most important factions in intergalactic politics. In fact, it were the Alir who founded the first, and as of today also the largest, Interstellar Federation, the Galactic Intent, a group of like-minded nations that banded together to protect themselves from our increasingly dangerous galaxy. The Federation is perhaps the sole reason why nations like Thadrakis families have not yet expanded their borders into southeastern parts of the galaxy. A noble cause, but unfortunately, it forced the Alir to abandon some of the most pacifistic ideals behind in order to survive all the horrors that lurk among the stars. As for the Commonwealth, the Alir are reliable friends and steadfast allies, and despite many differences between our species, they remain one of the closest races to ever cooperate with humanity. And although it is true that, in recent years, our nations were focused on their own separate goals and drifted apart somewhat, the Alir-human exchange of goods, ideas and people only raised in past decades, leading to increased stability in the southern part of the galaxy. Perhaps one day, when our nation deals with its internal and external issues, Commonwealth too will join the Alir Federation, so that we may build a brighter future together.